Your high beams when police officers are attempting to, enforce traffic issues.
That question has been asked.
Like all these little great, I know, all these little great questions.
And there are things, there's a lot of gray area. I mean, and I think that was one of the reasons why the column has been successful is because, one of the reasons that we're bad drivers, I'll say aggressive, how about that? Okay. We're aggressive drivers, partly because some of the rules in our state and our local towns, they're not really user-friendly.
So we're a product of our environment. We can't be really.
I'm not going to let everyone off the hook.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to clarify.
we have no say in the matter.
We can't help it.
We ran that red light because of the exactly because of the law. But the laws are, some of them, as you know, as an officer, some of them they're technical. They're real. They're not that clear about what you should do in certain situations.
Right. And there is some gray.
As a result, I do get a lot of questions. I'd say about a third of the questions that I answer in my column are absolutely from readers. I had a reader write in like, my daughter was at the toll booth on the Tobin Bridge, and she didn't have any cash, and they told her that she'd get a $50 ticket because they don't accept credit cards and they don't have a leniency policy anymore. So that was like, geez, is that how it really is? And is it like that on the Mass Turnpike? So that led to a column.
Interesting.
Other things are just my own ideas.
One I saw like the dog in the back of a truck.
Yes.
Is it illegal to have you're driving to the street and you see the pickup truck and the animal's jumping about?
And because especially out western part of the state, or heck, you could find farms in Amesbury.
Yeah.
The law says you actually have to have that animal strapped.
So
or caged.
Right. It has to be caged, but you can't be jumping around. So when you get the questions, what's the process to go about tracking down answers? What do you?
Sure. I mean, even though this is a column and I write a lot about first-person experiences.
I mean, right at this point, I think you could legally be considered a police officer, given all your experience.
Well, police officer have been my number one resource. Yeah. I mean.
Since you've been on the show, from this point on, if you need my help.
Excellent. Well, that's of course why I'm here, right? That's not why I'm here. But at BPD has been great. Boston Transportation Department, Tracy Ganiatos has been fantastic in terms of coming up with answers. Oh yeah, when I get a story, I treat it like a news story. I report it because I don't know the law half the time, or most of the time. I want to know what the answer is, so I'll go to police. I'll go to driving instructors. I'll go to, if it's a national question, I'll go to the officials in D.C. If it's a question about Turnpike, I'll go to the Turnpike Authority or Massport. So I go to the experts. Yeah.
And when you ask these questions, what's the reception? Are some people like, oh, that's a stupid question, or do you get, wow, that's a good question? We'll call you back.
Mostly I get that, and not because I am the best questioner in the land. Right. Mostly because I try to hit on stuff that you or I want to know, and generally the person on the other end of the phone wants to know it too. So yeah, I've gotten some great cooperation from everybody. It's been, which isn't always the case when you're a news reporter, but it's been great.
We're not going to make fun of the Registry of Motor Vehicles right now. We don't need to.
No, Andy Dufresne's been great.
Andy, okay, shout out to Andy.
Yes.
All right, so you've written over 100 articles.
Yeah.
You've been doing it for about 3 years. We talked about this earlier. Of all those articles, is there one favorite one in particular that stands out?
I would have to say a favorite one was a real fun one. It was coming up on July 4th, and I was trying to think of a patriotism, sort of like a Independence Day theme.
Historical.
Exactly.
Something, yeah. I got you.
And for whatever reason, I struck upon the idea: if Paul Revere were alive today, could he legally ride his horse? Right. Onto Concord. He didn't make it to Concord, but could he legally ride his horse, warning us of the British were coming? Would he actually be breaking any traffic laws? Could you have a horse on the street? You're funny. You had the section on the mounted police. And I thought, well, if you're a police officer and a mounted horse, that's one thing. But could Joe citizen
hop on a horse?
Hop on a horse.
There is a distinction between the horse and buggies that you see out and about.
There is.
So it's just if a guy decided to hop on a horse, boom, and take off.
Right.
And when we talked about it today, I was like, I was kind of a little stumped. So I mean,
I did quiz you, yes.
So a guy, Paul Revere, if alive today, could in fact do that.
The answer is he absolutely could.
Hold on one second. We get a call.
Oh,
so we don't get a lot of them. So when they come in,
we
like to take them. So caller, what's your name? Where you from?
Hi. Hi. My name is Michelle Maniscalco. I live in the South End.
Hi, Michelle.
I occasionally drive in the city, but every day I walk.
Okay.
And I was hoping that Mr. DeMarco, with his well-researched opinions and advice, could advise both pedestrians and drivers on better traffic safety. I was a little disappointed in the advice that we heard just earlier in the show, because it's basically about pedestrians having to just make sure they're out of the way no matter what's going on.
Yeah.
A friend of mine got hit in a crosswalk and permanently disabled by a driver who was speeding. So I was hoping that maybe Mr. DeMarco could have some constructive advice for everybody.
Okay. Yeah, and let me just say, too, you heard a part of that soundbite earlier. And, you know, hey, there's a case to be made for both. Obviously, pedestrians in the crosswalk, that's where they should be. I think the beginning of that soundbite was if a pedestrian jumps out in front of a car and not in a crosswalk, stuff could happen. So there's the pedestrian motorist thing, there's all sorts of blame to go around, but a good question nonetheless.
Yeah, sure. You know, the way they recently, I think within the past year, the state did up the fine for failing to stop for pedestrian or crosswalk. It's now $200. You see the barrels, you know, state law must stop for pedestrian. You know, I think some of the confusion with drivers is, you know, you don't know when, you know, if someone has 1 foot in the crosswalk, do I have to stop immediately? If they're on the other side of the street, do I have to stop? And, you know, the law about that is written that you have to be within, if a person is within 10 feet, a pedestrian is within 10 feet of your car on your side of the street, on a divided street, then you must stop. It used to be 5 feet.
Right.
So the laws have actually been beefed up in terms of trying to get drivers to stop.
Right.
In terms of what will actually compel drivers to stop, that's a great question. Yeah. And it's one that I know writing my column, I definitely stop more for people. Jaywalking is out there too, and of course that's probably a part of the problem as well. That if you have jaywalkers, especially in the city or in Cambridge, drivers sort of get a little upset or frustrated, so they don't stop for the jaywalkers, then they don't stop for the people in the crosswalk.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of blame to go around. I mean, here's the truth of the matter is simply, you know, if you're a pedestrian out and about, you got to be in that crosswalk. And you got to look out for yourself. And I think the point that Teddy Hendricks was making, and I'll make, people who jump out into the street and expect the car to see them, that expectation goes to pot when they get struck. And I think, you know, both need to pay attention. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when we say to a pedestrian, be extra cautious, that's because in that situation, that altercation, that collision, the pedestrian has a lot more to lose than the person in the car.
Absolutely.
So it's one of those things where, I mean, last year alone, I think we had close to 900 people injured. I think 10 pedestrians were killed. So it's an issue, it's a problem, and I guess there's still more. This might be an article for you.
All right.
All right. So, was it Michelle?
Yeah.
Thank you for the call, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yes.
And
I don't know how much we helped,
Thank you.
but
Great program.
Any other questions? You good?
Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you very much.
take care.
All right, thanks for the call. Yeah, jaywalkers, and you know, they don't. It's something they don't.
Well, you know, the other rule, you know, is worth mentioning. You know, the jaywalking rule, I guess, in terms of if you're looking from the driver's perspective, is there's a jaywalking rule on the books.
Yeah.
Do you know what the fine is?
I believe it's $1.
It's $1.
Yeah.
It's $1 if you jaywalk, and so of course that's not going to stop any pedestrian from jaywalking.
Yeah.
And it costs, I think it costs, I got a figure once from the DA's office, I think it costs $75 to actually prosecute that ticket. So it's just an offense that's never going to be enforced. I don't know if that's the solution to change that.
I got to think they're doing it better someplace else. In other cities where they do, I mean, pedestrians understand it and motorists get it. I think there's a better way for us to do it here. And I'm sure the model exists. I can't think of it right now, but I know there are some places where there's more courtesy and respect.
Yeah,
and people,
absolutely.
you know, and hey, I know we have people who are notorious for wanting to cross where they want to cross.
Yes.
And and there is nobody out there saying you can't do that. And unfortunately, bad stuff happens. But that's a column you'll be seeing soon.
All right.
All right. So
put it in my file here.
That's in the file. So.